Welcome to today's episode on the Reflective Coach podcast. With me, your host for today, Jordan, and I'm covering for Luca. So, on today's episode on the education series, we have a very special guest, a former public school teacher, now teaching online, someone who runs their own business, helping students read, and teaching English all over impressive 8 continents, I believe, Amy, including teaching in Ukraine. So, today's special guest is Amy Brown. How are you doing, Amy?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
Good, yeah, not too bad, thank you. And you had a bit of technical issues, to start
We
with?
did. People laugh when I tell them I have 3 sources of internet, but I've been online for 9 years. It has absolutely been necessary. I have used all three at one point. So
Yeah. Uh, recording, there's some good things to it and there's not some good things. But let's crack on. So about your for listeners that's coming in tonight, talk to us about your career. What got you into teaching?
I don't know. I've started teaching with my mom in children's church when I was 10, and it just kind of continued. I loved helping people learn and my students learn. So I ended up becoming a teacher, and I loved reading. So I became a reading specialist, and I taught, well, Head Start, which is like pre-K age, the 3 and 4 year olds, for a couple of years. Then I was a reading specialist for 8 years. And then I didn't like how things were going and I wasn't able to teach the way I needed to teach. So I moved on. I ended up finding an advertisement. It was Saturday night at 9 o'clock to teach online with students in China. I thought it might be a scam, but it wasn't. I ended up doing that for 5 years, but then the rules changed. So I moved on to a platform in the US. And then I didn't like some of the rules and I prefer to do things myself. I'm still on that platform, but I'm working on getting off of it and started my own business. A lot of the other teachers were doing it, and I started
Wow.
teaching students in Ukraine because I've sponsored children through my church in Ukraine for years, and I want to help. And meeting her, she's like, you can do this, because I've been writing my own books and everything for my students on the platform due to copyright laws. So then that's how it branched out from there. So I've taught ESL for 9 years. I'm still teaching my ESL students, and I started my business a couple of years ago. So
So I mean, sorry that it cut up in somewhere in between there, but you've got an extensive background, which is very refreshing to hear, and your love and drive for teaching is clearly evident. Um, so you might have covered it, so apologies if you have, but what influenced you to be where you are now, and what impacts have you wanted to have on others while you're teaching?
it just kind of was in steps. I started teaching online. I didn't even know that was a thing when I got that email and it says, here, you can teach students in China. I'm like, I don't have to drive in the snow. Awesome. But I thought it might be a scam. I'm like, can't hurt. And 25,000 classes later, right
Wow.
before the laws changed, and they kind of didn't want us there anymore. So I had to find something else to do.
Yeah.
And that ended up on a platform where, due to copyright laws, I had to write my own material. So I started writing my own material, and it was decodable books instead of guessing. A lot of programs have them guess by the picture, guess by the first sound, and cover up the word. Now, what do you think this word is? That's not reading. So decoding in everyday terms is pretty much sounding out the words and putting them together. You can't sound out all words, but most of them you can, at least
Yeah.
at the beginning of reading. And then as you read more, you can figure out the ones that can't be sounded out. But I didn't like the guessing. When I left brick and mortar, they were trying to make me have students read contractions and they couldn't read their name. I'm like, this doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. Why are we doing this? Did not follow the research. So now, starting my own business, I can follow the research. There is no curriculum. There is no, you have to do this on this day. I am allowed to assess my students and do what they need. So we can go faster if we need to. We can go slower if we need to. If I have to write something else, then that's what I do. I have an entire
Yeah.
mystery series because my one student would only read mysteries. She's like, I don't want to read anything but mysteries. So I like, okay, I read mysteries. Guess I'm gonna write some. And for my higher kids, my chapter books, I'm working on getting them published, and I have to start another one because they're demanding it. But I wrote a chapter book, and then I wrote another chapter book for the ones that are more advanced and don't
Yeah.
need the basic beginner reading. They're with me just to keep working on vocabulary and comprehension and making sure they're reading and
You
they
sound
like
like
what
an
I'm
awesome
reading.
teacher.
Yeah. I wasn't going to publish it, but they all insisted. And my one student's like, I'm only reading what you write. We're still working on that. But I'm like, you need to read some other things. And they're like, no. So I have to write faster. But
Uh, yeah, I
that's
think this
how
is
I
it
do
with teaching is, as you say, as I suppose with your own business, you're your own boss. You can
it.
have it how you want it to be, how you want your teachings to come across. Have I got that right, or
Yes,
is
and
that the wrong way
it's
of putting it?
just better that way. I can do what they need. There's
Yeah,
nobody sitting there going, "You have to use this curriculum on this day." I mean, some people are teaching in places where there is absolutely no give. If your students don't learn it, oh well, moving on. Just
yeah.
it doesn't work, and it's hard to teach like that. And everybody asked, "Will you go back?" And they said, "No." It would be too hard to go back now.
Yeah, I think you learn about each and every student, don't you, in that respect, and what their needs are, what how you can get the best out of them. I mean, if we can take this into this perspective, in your experience, sorry, can you hear me, Amy? I thought I broke up
Yes,
then.
I can hear you.
Yeah, how would you describe being a teacher? If you could put it down to 3 words, how would you describe being a
Oh,
teacher?
I don't even know. That's hard with 3 words. I don't know. I guess you have to love them and care about them. I
Yeah,
think loving and caring educator because if you don't care, they know. You can't teach them if you don't have a relationship. And I
mm,
think some people think you can't have that online, and you absolutely can. I mean, I had some
yeah.
students that I taught for 5 years, and I still talk to them and their parents. My former students still send me messages, and
Oh, that's
so you
nice.
can have those relationships.
Yeah,
It's
it builds up a rapport, doesn't it? And it builds
yeah,
that in the end, you've impacted somebody's life.
they do.
I want to make a difference. I want to help this person um, have a good life, learning life skills, everyday skills.
They it
So
really does.
people like you that deserve all credit. Ooh. So, Amy, what is one thing that you about being a teacher?
I missed the one word. I missed it.
Sorry. So, what is for one thing that you enjoy most being about being a teacher?
I love it when they get it, when they light up and they're like, "I can do this." I think that's what a lot of us love is when they're like, "I know how to do this. I can do it." I think that's the best part.
What? Um, Bear with me 1 second, Amy. Sorry, having a bit of technical issues my side
I
now.
don't know if it's on my end or what. Is it my end? I don't know.
I think it's yeah, it's turning into my end.
Oh no, I
Oh,
jinxed you.
what? Right, I think we're okay now. Fingers crossed. So, coming back to what we were saying, sorry, I think I did ask you, but again, it might have cut up. I think it was my side. So, what is one thing that you really enjoy being about being a teacher? Sorry, Amy, what did you say?
I like it when they get it, like when their eyes light up and they have their aha moment. It really is the best part. And
Yeah,
plus, I mean, what I like doing now is getting to teach students around the world. It's so
yeah,
fun.
I
I mean,
bet.
I've had some classes where I have students in 5 different countries on 4 different continents. I mean, you don't get that being a
No,
small
that is
town
very
teacher like
impressive.
I was.
No, that is really impressive. Well done to you. In that respect, do you find it? What is one thing that you find the most challenging when you teach? Is it the different time zones? Is it the different continents that you have to work with? What is it that in that
The
respect?
time zones, the time change is absolutely it's rough when I have them back to back, and then I'm trying to deal with my time zone, and Europe changes at a different time, and my students in Asia don't change at all, and so it tends to be like, "Okay, who's moving for a couple of weeks? Because this isn't gonna work."
I can imagine that being a real change because I suppose your body thinks that you sync to it in one way, but then something else could change any matter of time, couldn't it?
Yes, and then it's like, okay, so my students in Ukraine have to be here, my students in China have to be here, and what am I gonna do? Because it's at the same time. So it was
What is so going back to again the positive side of things when you're teaching, what can you describe a successful in your class, say in your lessons, what would you hope that a student goes in there and comes away with? What would you feel was a successful lesson in your case?
if they get the phonics skill we're working on
Yeah,
and they still like it and they're having fun reading, and if we have fun, I try to make it fun, but there's a very specific reason why we're doing it. But reading should be fun. It's work. And I tell them that you're going to have to work hard when you're first learning, but it's also fun. And I think as
yeah,
long as they enjoyed class and they learned what they were supposed to learn, that's a good thing because we want them to keep trying. You don't want them to give up and
absolutely.
stop. But it's also a
Yeah,
good thing because I write. So because I write, I'm able to make sure they enjoy it and I can pick different topics and I can pick different pictures, and they love reading the nonfiction and they like hearing the stories behind the pictures. So that's a lot of fun.
yeah, I bet it is. What is your way of, in a lesson, keeping students engaged and motivated? What's the best way to keep them motivated?
Choice. So I have different books that they can read for different phonics skills. And so they get to pick which one they're going to read. And then I write more if necessary, or I tweak them, or and also we talk about what they're reading. So it keeps them going and they're not just trying to sound out words. And also, we do movement when they need to. Every student is different. It depends on what they need. Some of my students need a lot more movement, some of them don't. But we're always doing movement. They write either on paper or on the screen. Some of them use Play Doh because that's better for them. They enjoy that more. It really just depends. I have puppets and props. Lots of props ready to go if we need a break. And since I've taken thousands of pictures of animals, I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this. Then you get to see a picture if you do a good job, and then they get a picture.
Yeah,
So it's all different things. Depends on the student. It really does. You can
each
teach the
student is
same book,
different in that
and
respect.
the lesson is different every single time
Mm.
because the students are different every single time. It's never the same.
So, as you say and alluded to there, there's some students that are really in tune with it, engaging, motivated. If you come across a student where they refuse to do any work, any assigned work, or they're causing a bit of mischief, if you called it that, how do you address that?
I have some. We do something fun first. Sometimes they're just having a bad day. Like yesterday, my student had just gotten up. He didn't want to do anything. He wasn't going to work. There was no point in fighting. I'm like, hey, want to see my pictures from my trip on Friday? Let's look. And then we started talking about them, and he was learning about them. He has autism and ADHD, so getting him right out of bed was a little rough. And I said, all right, look. And then I showed him a flamingo. He's like, they can't fly. So I showed him they wasn't flying, but their wings flapping. And he's like, they can fly. Are they going to get me? I'm like, no, they're not going to get you. They don't live here. But and then we started talking about that, and then he was ready to work.
Yeah,
Sometimes you just have to play first, and you
I
can't
love that
go,
approach,
okay,
Coach.
we're going to do this, because if they aren't going to do it, they're not. And sometimes I go to a little lower level and start there just to get them into it with some confidence, because who knows how their day's gone at school,
That's very
especially if
true.
they're behind. Like, who knows how much they struggled, and fighting them with isn't going to work. I was talking to somebody the other day. I said, I love teaching online because I can change a lesson like that. I don't have to drag around all of my books. I have them with one click of a button. I can go somewhere else and we can do
Yeah.
whatever we need to do. So, yeah.
Again, it epitomizes your teaching style in a sense of, again, being your own boss. You got your own time to do it. There's no such. There is a bit of stress, I can imagine, but in the sense, it's a nice, rewarding stress at
Yeah.
the end of it when you see a lot of progress made.
When the internet goes out in the middle of class, it's not exactly the best feeling, but it doesn't happen often. Like, that's the biggest stress is tech issues.
Yeah.
That's really the biggest one. My
So,
students, I'm pretty
how do
lucky.
you
I have some
overcome
really
that?
good students.
How do you overcome that then? If that happens when you're teaching a class, what do you do to combat that?
Well, my phone is always right beside me, ready to flip on the hotspot, and I practice periodically to make sure I remember how to do it, because in the moment you're like, now what do I do?
Yeah. It's like a reflection of, oh, did I do that? Did I do that?
I know how to do this. I know it works. Come on. Just get back on and be like, oh, tech issues. Let's go. Keep going.
The joys of adulthood, eh? And that's what I'll be saying to a class, the joys of adulthood.
They just go with it, and then we laugh and keep going. You can't
Yeah,
really do anything. I mean, it's gonna happen.
exactly. Them sort of things are out of your control, aren't they, really? There is things that are in your control, but there's a lot of things that aren't in your control, like a internet outage or whatever.
They really love it when the lights go out. And my internet is plugged into a backup battery, so as long as that doesn't go out, it's okay. And they're like, your
Yeah,
lights are out. I'm like, yeah, we're having scary ghost story time now, guys. Let's go.
I love that.
It is, I think you find online, expect the unexpected and just go with it. And every day as a teacher, you can have a plan, but then you have plan B, C, D, E, F, and you don't know which one's really gonna happen.
That's good, and that's a good way to be. And I suppose that's as they say, every day is a school day, right?
Yeah. Every day's different. You have to be willing to adjust, because some days, like yesterday, I was like, okay, I could have kept fighting. And I'm like, nope, we're just gonna play for a minute. And
Yeah.
when worse comes to worse, I'm like, hey, somebody bring the dog. They could bring Zoe. I've had a
Yeah, you
couple of those
find ways.
classes. When they start out in tears, it's it's not easy to overcome. I was like, they're crying before they got to me. What's going on? Yeah.
I tell you what, though, I just love your bubbly personality, and I'm sure that rubs off on so many of your students that
You kind of have to be,
are
especially
classes.
online.
Yeah,
Like, online, you can't sit here and be boring. You'll lose them. And I teach such young children. I mean, I teach all ages, but some of my really young ones, You can't be like that. And even the older ones, if you see them struggling, I'll pull out a puppet, and they're like, "I'm 13." I'm like, "Uh huh," but you just smiled, so we'll put keep going. Like, you look so miserable.
What would you say is the most challenging age then? Is it teenagers, or would you say it's younger children, or
I teach all of them. I like the mix.
you like the mix? Yeah,
I like the mix. So my I like how helping them learn to read, and my older ones, it's more teaching them to love to read.
yeah,
So, and they may have struggled when they were younger, and then they get they kind of start out hating reading, which isn't what anyone wants. Reading
no,
is supposed to be fun and enjoyable, and
engaging, really, isn't it? And
yeah. I always like finding the books that they finally love. And I've read so much and I read so many. I always have a kid's book with me. I'm like, yeah, I'm reading this. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yes, I'm reading this. And then sometimes they've recommended it. And so I'm reading it. Some of them I haven't liked, but I'm reading it. So they love that.
anything for kids, eh?
It's funny. One of my students, she's going to a Spanish speaking school, but she's from here. And they were trying to get her to use her Spanish skills with her English reading. And I'm like, the sounds are different. That doesn't work. So she's made a lot of progress. She's good, but she got a book out of the library. And she's like, look, I'm reading this. I'm like, I love that book. That's the first chapter book I was allowed to check out. And she yelled at her mom, see, mom, I told you she'd read it.
I think this is it. Kids have such great personalities, don't they?
It's so fun. And I've been really blessed to find something I love to do.
Mm,
So,
yeah,
and then like being able to teach my students, and I've taught students in Ukraine and Myanmar in 2 war zones, which my Myanmar students were adults. And I still am in contact with them. I'm not teaching that group, my first group right now, because they've moved on out of the program, but I still talk to them because they're in refugee camps. So, I don't know. Can you still hear me?
yeah. Sorry, yeah. Again,
No?
I think
You don't know. I'm like, is it me? Yeah.
let's
Do you want
see.
me to tell you again?
Is it working now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Can you tell me us again,
Yeah.
please, for the listeners? Sorry.
So, I know what teaching my students in Ukraine and Myanmar is very different, but I'm still in contact with my students in Myanmar. They were adults, so they had a 2 year program and then they moved on and they get the next group. So,
Sorry, I think one
I
second.
don't know.
I think it
Is
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 my
it
end.
my
Let
end?
me try.
Like, is it me? I don't know.
So, welcome back to the Reflective Coach podcast. Apologies, there's been a few technical issues tonight, particularly my end. I think we're both struggling tonight, aren't we, Amy? But hopefully, we'll get there eventually, everybody. So, I know you just repeated yourself again, and I'm so sorry to ask again. But could you repeat what you were just saying, please?
And so I was talking about my students in Ukraine. So I've been teaching students in Ukraine or from Ukraine. Some of them have moved to other countries for 3+ years. We started week 2 of the war. So it's been an interesting experience. And then I had students in Myanmar. They're in a 2 year program. So every 2 years we get different students. But partway through our second year, they ended up getting moved. So I knew there was a war in Myanmar. Most people don't know. But
Mm,
anyway, all of their family had moved in with them. And so they were okay, but they weren't allowed outside. Their electricity got cut off at 9 p.m. And then one week I heard a lot of banging. I'm like, guys, what's going on? And they're like, oh, we're fixing our house. They have to fix our house. I'm like, why? And they wouldn't tell me. And they wouldn't tell me. And a couple of days later, like, teacher, we have to move. The war is here. So it's been
mm,
really challenging, but I'm still in contact. I mean, I talked about those relationships. I'm still in contact. I'm like, "How are you doing? How are you doing? Are you okay?" And they're like, "How are you? We're worried about you." I'm like, "Why are you worried about me? Like, you're you're in a refugee camp. Like, I'm
mm,
fine. It's just a little snow." Or 6 feet in 2 days. But we survived it. But they're just they're so caring and so sweet. But I always tell the story, my one, and this, so I'm working on a book, then I'm writing about it. But my one disappeared and she was hiding in the forest. And I knew she was hiding in the forest. And I had asked the other student that they were from the same town. I'm like, "Have you heard from her? Is she okay?" We didn't hear from her, didn't hear from her. We didn't know if she was okay or not. And on Christmas Day, she's like, "Merry Christmas, teacher." And I'm like, I told her, I cried. That was my best Christmas present. Because I'm like,
oh,
she's alive. She's okay. She doesn't even celebrate Christmas. And she remembered. And it's
yeah,
just,
that's so heartwarming to
yeah,
hear that.
I worry about them so much. But I mean, they're still doing the best they can. But they're in
Mm,
refugee camps and they didn't have much, but the little they had is gone. And one of them is actually a refugee here now. She's a couple hours away, and I check in, make sure she doesn't need anything and how she's doing. A lot more than the other two, just because the other two don't have the best internet situation most of the time. But
yeah,
hopefully, I'm
it's
going to get to meet the one soon. She's not too many hours away. So,
well,
you know,
that's amazing. Yeah,
but
it
it
shows that
was
you've got a very caring nature about you, Amy. You know.
it's tough. And our students in Ukraine, I mean, you tell people, we've taught them in bomb shelters. We could hear the fighting and the explosions behind. They're like, "Hold on, teacher, I have to move to the hall." And I'm like, "What's that gonna do? Like, how's that going to protect you?" But the one day I was teaching two sisters, and they're like, "Hi, teacher, how are you?" I'm like, "I'm fine." And they're like, "Don't mind us. We're sorry. We're in a bomb shelter right now." And then partly through class, their internet cut out, and I was like,
Mm,
"Oh, are you okay?" I was so happy to see them the next day. I'm like, "You're all right." So
yeah, I can't.
it's tough.
I
It,
think this is it though. Is again, you're reaching out to them people, and again, you make a difference in them people. You know, you're giving them that chance, the opportunity to even talk and to for them to open up if they feel that they want to open up. And that's full praise on you, Amy, because that takes a lot of, you know, it when you hear of them situations, it hits home, but you think, blimey, and it's them, as you say, them natural feelings of, are they okay? Because w- we hear all about it, but until you actually see the people involved in that situation, it's very distressing, isn't it?
yeah, it's tough, and they're so sweet, and they're like, "We're at home today." I'm like, "Why are you home?" "Oh, a bomb exploded on our playground. We had to stay home." I'm like, or they tell
Mm,
you, "Sorry, I'm late, teacher. We had to hide in the bomb shelter before I could come." Like, it's okay. We're fine. Let's just. This is what we're doing today. Are you all right? But they're so sweet, and they say thank you after every class. And they're just the sweetest kids you'll ever meet. They really are. But the
yeah.
stories are hard to hear sometimes. And I have some
Mm.
people in my life, and they're like, "It's not really happening. It's all on TV." And I'm like, "No, it really is happening. It's not on
It
TV."
really is happening until you,
It,
yeah, get to meet someone or meet people that's seen it. Yeah, I totally appreciate that. I mean,
yeah,
I mean, we'll talk about a bit of the Ukraine stuff in a moment, even though you covered quite a bit of it there. But when you was a public school teacher mainly, um, I know that we said about being your own boss and everything like that when you come into the online platform and everything like that. But would you go back to public school teaching at all, or do you feel
no,
online's your
no, not now. It is actually, it's gotten worse. There are so many teachers leaving public education right now. And I think it's a worldwide situation. I know it is here just because there's a lot of disrespect. And honestly, teachers can't actually make a living. They can't survive anymore. on what they made. I always tell people when I went to a teacher's fair, the one place is like, okay, well, if you come teach with us, we'll help you set you up with a teacher and you can rent a room there and we'll help you get a second job. And I'm like, I don't think so. I'll just stay here.
Mm.
So, and it's a lot of, I don't know, it's just the disrespect and not being able to do what's best for the kids. And
There's too much, maybe politics. Is that the right way of
there's
putting
too
it?
much politics, and it's just, I fully support every teacher who's still there.
Mm.
And I cheer them on and I support them. And when people start saying bad things, I'm like, no, you have no idea what it's like until you're there. Everybody
Yeah,
thinks it's an 8 to 3 job. It's not. You work all night and you go to sleep exhausted and you still don't have your lessons done. You're doing the best you can. You sacrifice your family. They're like, you get summers off. Yes, to plan, to do professional development, to work that second job to pay the bills. To,
there's
so
more to it than meets the eye, really, isn't there? All round, as you say.
And I loved my students there. I really did. I was truly blessed for the first few years to work in a small school, even though we were part of a larger district. But then they closed that school and consolidated, and then it wasn't the same. When I was
Mm.
at that small school, I was able to do what my students needed. And then when we
Yeah,
consolidated, I was not. And to go back and know that I wouldn't be able to do exactly what they needed, I don't think I could do that after experiencing being able to help them and do exactly what they need.
yeah.
It
I
would
mean,
be
in
too
terms of
difficult.
monitoring students' progress, do you find it easier to track it when you're doing your own online as opposed to the in-person teaching, like um, what we were saying a moment ago, from being a public teacher? Is it
I
easier to
was
track
always in
online?
small group, so it was a little easier for me. But if you have
Yeah,
20 or 30 kids, there's just no way. I can't remember the exact breakdown, but you only get a couple minutes with each student per subject to actually focus on them. So they can get lost in the shuffle. You have to move with the main group. So if anybody is struggling, you can't really spend the time to get them caught up. And if you have the advanced students, you can't really push them further along because you have to go with the majority.
with the majority. So in that respect, even though it's a majority, there's, as you were saying, there's no real middle ground as such, it seems.
No, you just kind of go. And some people, I mean, like I said before, you teach this lesson on this day, and it doesn't matter whether they get it or not. The next day, you're moving on. And if there's
Mm.
a
It's
fire drill
quite a
in the
quick
middle, oh
turnaround, isn't
well,
it?
moving on anyway. you know,
Yeah. I mean, this is leading into the next topic, I suppose, with COVID. I mean, I suppose with COVID, in terms of the online side of things, that really favoured you in your profession, if you like. But again, if you was in for in-person teaching, that must have been very
I
difficult.
wasn't in person.
No, so you was mainly online, wasn't you,
I
when you
was
was doing
already
it?
online.
Yeah,
Totally. But there were a lot of in-person teachers going, "How do we do this?" And so we're like, "Try this, do this." So we were actually being that support to them
yeah,
because we've been online. So we were able to help and give them some tips and tell them what works and, you know, because that
How
was not easy for them.
how soon was it before COVID come along that you started your online teaching?
Online, no, I started in 2016.
Okay,
So I've been
so
on for quite a while.
well, yeah,
It was
okay,
but it's very different. It's like teaching online and teaching on person is very different. And people don't realize that. Like you said, I have a bubbly personality. You have to. And
yeah,
you have to teach different. You have to watch them and see what they're doing and make sure they get it and use props and use different things. But there are different online games, and as long as you can write on the screen, you're great. You can do it. And I
yeah.
do teach groups. So everyone, it's not all one on one. I do teach groups. But yeah, it is definitely a very different thing, and you have to learn it.
You have to learn it, yeah.
You have to
I
learn it.
I mean, in terms of, I suppose, let's put this on a COVID perspective again. In that respect, it must have been, in some ways, again, for the in-person teaching, again, for social groups, it must have been very difficult. But again, when it's come to online, that must have been some sort of blessing that there was them social groups that you could still
Yeah.
form one way or another.
Yeah. I mean, people teach social groups. I don't do so many of the social groups. I mean, I guess my Ukraine students are more, but people do social groups online all the time. Like I'm involved in writing groups and tutoring groups, and we meet together online all the time. So it's possible to have that relationship and learn all of those skills. But for
Yeah.
in-person teachers, switching to online overnight with your students not having the supplies, and where I live, not everyone has internet. So that was a
Mm.
big challenge. They lost their education and they were delivering weekly packets to those students. So not everyone could still be taught online
Yeah.
because they
So
didn't
again,
have access.
it goes back to that point of middle ground, doesn't it,
Mhm.
really? That there's either or, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah,
um,
I know people were doing packets because some of my kids that I know in town, they would do packets, and whether they did them or not, they still moved on to the
yeah.
next grade. And so there is a little bit of that catching up still from that.
I was just about to say from that, is this still is this for new norm, if you like, becoming online teaching? I know you alluded to it a moment ago that it is growing a bit more, but is this a new norm now, would you say?
I think for some people it is. I mean, I've taught students when I first left my students in China, I taught students that were in the classroom and I was online. And there are a lot more online programs that are actual schools and classrooms. So I think it's more popular than it was. It's
Yeah.
another option. And since COVID, I think more people see it as an option. So
Because I look at it for myself in terms of if I was a student, I mean, I found it quite hard to interact with my peers, say, when it was in-person schooling and everything like that. But if it came to online, it might have made me feel a bit more comfortable, like what you do for your teaching, etc. But I mean, how would you feel? Would you, if you was put in them shoes, would you rather be learning online, or would you rather be learning back in school in person if you was a student?
I'd be online. I still
Yeah,
take classes online. I'm always doing classes online. And everyone's like, there's an in person option. I'm like, there's an online option. We're going to go with that one. Like, and for a lot of students, it works. There are a few that it doesn't. But
yeah.
I mean, I've had parents that say, we're going to give this a try. We don't think it's going to work. And then they're like, it really does work. I'm like, it really does.
Hmm.
But I think it does depend on the teachers. You
That's
have to
very true.
know. You have to know what you're doing to teach online. And it's not that you can't learn, but you have to be willing to learn and you have to understand in person is different than online. So what
Yeah.
you can do in person doesn't necessarily work online.
To be fair,
Just
that's a perspective that I would, I say I wouldn't expect that in that respect. So it's made me broaden my horizons somewhat because, as you say, thinking of it logically, you're right. You wouldn't be able to do what you can online to in person. It's a different way. Um, I mean, I do like soccer coaching, and I remember that this is going a bit off the topic somewhat, but when we had to do some training for it, we had to learn like our emergency aid, like to do if there was any injuries, CPR, you name it, all that sort of stuff during COVID times. But it was all online. Now, I didn't mind that in that respect, but on the other hand, I was thinking if I needed to go and do someone that was injured down the street or whatever, or one of my participants got injured, it's different from actually in person to online. And when you're putting that into practice,
yeah.
yes, you might have more time in your own environment or whatever, but then on the other hand, you know what I'm trying to say, Amy?
I think yeah, first aid training might be better in person,
Yeah,
especially some parts of it. But yeah, I know people do it online. I haven't done that one online, but I could if I wanted to.
Yeah. I think
It's
that's what world now, though, isn't it? It's an online world now,
Mhm.
pretty much.
And it's pretty cool because like students have access to teachers. Like I
Yeah.
said, I've taught students on 6 continents that I would not have been able to teach if they weren't there. And we talk in our tutoring group. That means you can find the best tutor or teacher that's going to work for you, and there may
Mm,
not be one in your neighborhood or close to you. So you can try it. And some people are a little, like I said, they're a little leery. I'm like, you really should try it.
mm.
It does
I
work.
think that's it. And that's what I've always found with life, with anything. It's about trial and error. And as you say, with it about environments and that, I remember when I had teachers at school and in person, and they some of them made the environment, if you like, very engaging, very entertaining, if you like, to be in that lesson and want you to make you want to learn more. Um, there's so many teachers that I could look back on now and I think, you know what, you've helped me to shape me where I am today. If it wasn't for you, and as I said earlier, I do really think they are up there to be the unsung heroes in terms of professions like you as teachers, that you don't get enough credit where it's deserved.
Yeah. I think teaching is, especially, I don't know how it is there, but here it is not a very respected
Mm,
profession, even though a lot of us have been in school for a lot of years and have advanced degrees, and people don't realize how much you have to do. And we don't get to stop. At least in the United States, we have to continue taking extra classes every so many years to get enough credits. So it never stops.
yeah.
We always have to learn, and things are always changing. But
So is that because of, again, it's like what we were saying earlier, but in terms of that there's not enough respect because there's too much politics involved?
I think so. And
Yeah,
people are like, they think it's just babysitting, and all you do is play all day, and that's not it at all.
it's not that at all. No.
No, and they think you're done, and you get summers off, and really you don't,
Mm.
and we're not paid for summers, so you
Well, this
know,
is it. There's a lot of labels that come around with
yeah,
teaching, it seems like, in that respect, unfortunately.
yeah.
So, in that respect, what is something that you wish you knew before you got into teaching yourself?
I don't know. Maybe I think I would have told myself not to do it. I don't know. I like it now. Online is good. I'm like, why didn't I go to law school?
Yeah.
I have degrees before education, so that was an option. But I don't know. I think I would have known how much work it was gonna be, but I also love it.
Mm,
So because I'm online,
yeah.
but I think a lot of teachers now, and people get mad at us, but a lot of teachers are like, you don't want to do this. And I know there are teachers who tell their kids, I will not pay for your education if you're going into teaching, because they don't want them to have the stress. And there's a lot of health issues that come with teachers and
Can you
a
go
lot
into
of
that a
stress.
bit more?
I got out before mine were permanent. So
Yeah.
yeah, but
I think
they
this is
they're
it.
getting pretty
It's
bad. So and that's the sad part, but like there's so much joy online. But
mm.
for brick and mortar, no, I wouldn't go back. I wouldn't.
What
I hate to say it, I wouldn't recommend anybody else do it. I'm like, you try something else.
So the question is, why did you choose to move abroad?
I'm still no, I'm still online. I'm still here. I have not I should say I've taught students on 6 continents from my house. Like so
Yeah.
it's all online.
Oh, okay. I beg your
Yeah.
pardon. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I stay right here. That's great. I love it. But
Has teaching and your experiences not just changed you as a teacher, but as a person too?
I think I don't know. I think I'm more grateful, at least my online person. I try to be more thankful and have more gratitude. There are moments when I don't, but like I tell everyone, it's very hard not to be grateful when you have students living like my students in Ukraine and Myanmar are. It's hard not to remember. So yes, I have moments where I'm like, oh, and then it's like, wait, nope, I'm lucky, I'm blessed. Why am I doing like why am I upset about this? It's like our tech issues today, first world problems, you know. It's hard to get upset about it because for the most part, it's always there. So I think it's made me more grateful. I think that's is that what you mean? I think that's hard to explain to people who
Yeah,
don't
no, that's fair
haven't
enough.
lived it. Like online
So
has made me grateful.
yeah, I love that answer. What is there a place you said about, all these different continents and that? Is there a particular place that you traveled to that you love traveling to, or
My
well,
sister
do you
and I
wanted
go
to
to a
travel
lot of
to?
zoos. We just went the other day. I got to use my teaching. I got to use my teaching face, and so
Your
my
teaching
sister,
place.
like, my sister always tells people, "Sorry, she's a teacher. She can't turn it off." Is what she tells me. I'm like, I'm always watching kids, and there were like 2,000 kids, and they were some of the worst we've ever seen on field trips. But like they were doing some slightly dangerous things, and I'm like, "Ooh, okay, you really need to get down. You're gonna fall and get hurt." Like, come on, give them a second. And I'm like, no, and we kid watch, and not in a creepy bad way, but in a okay, are they going to get hurt? Are they doing something dangerous because their adult is not watching them?
Yeah,
So, like, there was an adult and had 4 kids sitting across from her. The one turned around, ran up this steep curve, was gone for like 30 seconds before she even noticed he was missing. I knew exactly where he was. I was watching him to make sure he didn't disappear. I didn't want him to get kidnapped or something. And then he turned around, came back. She's like, "Where is he?" I'm like, "He's over there." I'm like, "And why did it take you so long sitting across the table from them to know that he had disappeared?" Like I sounds bad, but and then I turned my teaching mode. I'm like, we were looking at sick bugs, and you couldn't tell really where they were. I'm like, here, I took a picture. Here, it's on my phone. I'm like, here, parent, I'm just showing them this. I'm like, yeah, it's my teacher self. Can't turn it off, but you know,
teacher mode.
it's like. But my sister always apologizes. Like people will have their cups too close to the edge of the table, and I'm like, no, that's just bothering me. We need to move it to the center. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, that's bothering. It's gonna spill. I want to clean it up. Like, it's kind of comedy, but yeah, she always
So,
prefaces. She's like, "You can't turn it off." I'm like, "I'm sorry."
so the question is then is if anyone wants to get into teaching, like yourself doing online, let's go on for the online route. What do you advise them, or if they want to just do it as a career path as a teacher, what steps, where can they go? What can they do
Yes,
to get on this path?
there are some programs that you can sign up with that will help you start. I mean, one helps you start a business, but just know that it's not always fast, and be very careful about online platforms because they pay little, and there are a lot of scams out there. So join the online teacher groups, join the online Facebook groups. We're very helpful. Just be careful that you don't bring the politics because we don't do politics. And you will be called out if you bring them. We don't do it. We are all very kind, but if the politics creep in, somebody's going to tell you about it. So that would be my suggestion. Don't bring it because they will call you out.
Very wise
I mean,
words.
we all want each other to succeed. And everyone's like, but it's a competition. It really isn't. We support each other because we
Mm,
all want to be successful. So, yeah, like join the groups. There are a bunch of online teaching groups that be careful of scams if you want on a platform.
sound.
We'll tell you what they are. Ask us. If
And
something seems too good to be true, probably is.
I'm
Even
sure everyone as well, if there's anything that you need to speak about in the teaching profession, in terms, as you say, don't bring politics into it, but Amy's your person to reach out to, because I'm sure Amy will guide you in the right path if
yeah,
you need it.
I'll help you, but don't bring politics.
That's going to be today's tagline, probably.
Yeah, you don't want everybody. I mean, there will be if you think you're going to be like, "Oh, I know," then people will tell you. And if you want to
Yeah,
teach reading, make sure you are certified. You know the signs of reading. Reading is not something you just kind of wander in and start teaching
yeah,
because you have to give them a good start. And we will help you. We will tell you where to go. But if you're just like, "Oh, I think I want to teach reading. I don't know anything about it," please don't.
yeah.
Please don't hurt them.
Don't jump in early.
Don't hurt the students. We'll tell you how to learn, but don't think you're gonna do it, and don't come in going, "Oh, I'm just gonna teach them how to guess and memorize." And please don't. We had
Yeah,
that comment in one of our tutoring groups the other day, and we're all like, "Ooh, we applaud this, but reading's not something you do that with. Do you know any other skills? Like, how can we help you? or, or learn it, or learn this first, please." Like, and she's like, "People are being mean." We're like, "We are absolutely not, but we all understand the importance of reading and not giving them that bad foundation. So please learn this." And everybody was very polite. I mean, we're like, "You need to learn this, this, and this before you start. Reading's not something
yeah. You just
you
go
don't take
straight
it
into it.
lightly." I guess you could say it's very important, and there's a lot of research out there on how to do it correctly, and there's not many people that actually follow it. So
Yeah. So
yeah,
follow the guides, people, and know for trusting ones. And Amy would also incorporate the right pathways for you to go down, I'm sure, if needed.
yes, I will help you.
Um, in terms of languages, getting to know about you, can you speak any other languages?
I don't, which shocks everyone. I mean, I kind of know some Spanish and I kind of know some Russian, and my Chinese students have informed me that I cannot speak Chinese and I should just give up. So
Ouch.
yeah. I'm like, "I'm saying it right." And they're like, "You're not." And I'm like, "It sounds like you." And they're like, "It doesn't."
I think
Yeah.
the only Spanish I know is hello and is it como estas for
Yeah.
how are you?
Mhm.
That's the only things
Yeah.
I know in Spanish.
Yeah. Like, I know some and I can read more than I speak, and yeah. But everyone's like, "How do you do it?" I said, "It's immersion English. A lot of pictures, a lot of props, and Google Translate if it gets really rough."
Google Translate's very handy.
It is. I mean, we really don't use it that much, but I have a couple of beginners, and usually the beginners, their parents are there, so they can translate a little bit. But I have some parents that don't speak English either. So my one student actually translates for the parent. They don't know any English. But I've had her for almost 3.5 years. Every day. She is
Seems
fluent.
like you've got a good relationship with them though.
Yes, and it's funny because she had a baby brother right the day after my niece is born, so we talk about him,
Oh, that's nice.
and I get to see him quite a bit, but his name is Cyrus, but she spells it Crys, so we call him Cryus because he cries a lot.
Cryus?
Yeah, but I mean, when you say you can have relationships, you really can. I mean, I've met their pets. My dog has met their pets. She comes to visit, and then all of a sudden, you see everybody picking up their pets, and all the pets are on screen for a couple minutes, getting to know each other. So they tell me Zoe is famous. She's a star.
Zoe's famous.
But well, she had like her own books. She's in the books. Some of them.
Yeah.
She has her own book line that's getting bigger. So she's she's pretty famous, and they love reading her books.
Oh,
They
that's
like seeing
amazing.
her. Yeah. It's
No
not
pressure, but can you teach us any Spanish?
No, probably not. I can tell you that for some reason, ni hao is not how you say hello in Chinese, but I don't know what it is. I thought it was.
Well, next time we get you on for another episode, Amy, you might be able to tell us.
I'll bring the recording. Hold it up. You can see if I say I actually don't get a lot of Spanish speaking students.
Hmm. I remember that I learned German in school, and try to use it little bits here and there where I can, but only little bits come back to me. It's like, did I say it right? Is it the right
I
words?
know. I'm like, is it? It's like, okay, hola. Like, where's the bathroom?
Yeah.
Find it. They don't
I,
in school. You don't really learn useful language skills. Like if you're traveling, you don't
I
really
think this is
use.
it.
I'm like, what if I need this? And they're like, that's not in the book. I'm like, well, it's kind of important.
Well, I think this is it though, is in terms of, let's face it, English is for universal language, isn't it, really? And I mean, when I was learning about different with German, it was all different types of past and tenses and everything like that. I was thinking, I can't get my head around this. Like,
And
and then
and I always
like I did before that just say they said just say speak in English, like. I'm like, oh, okay, but I want to try German. you know.
yes, and I always they laugh at me. I always tell them I watch Peppa Pig. It helps me sleep. Peppa Pig is my insomnia cure. So they think it's hilarious. I'm like, don't you watch Peppa Pig? And they're like, teacher, I'm not a little kid. And I'm like, but I watch Peppa Pig. And they're like, are you a little kid? But I tell them the story of one day I wasn't quite awake and they were walking around looking for a torch. And in US English, a torch is a stick with fire on top. I'm like, why are they trying to find a torch? I'm like, oh, it's a flashlight. I tell them that story. They think it's hilarious. Yeah, every once in a while we have different words, even though we speak the same language. But
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Really, all for different
it
types of.
makes them laugh. And then my one was reading something yesterday, and I had it. And I have some Canadian students and some. I've had some students in UK and Ireland, and we don't use "use" where you guys use. So I had to change some things to double check the spelling to be able to teach them. And so I was talking with my one student who's in the United States, and he's like, "They put a U in there." I'm like, "Yes, they do. Why?" I'm like, "We just spell things differently. Like the spelling changed."
Yeah, we just like to be complicated.
He was just shocked.
Mm,
It was pretty fun.
I
Yeah.
love that.
But it's fun. You get to teach them different things, but it's really fun when they're all from different countries in one class. And if they don't know something, there is no one else to translate. We have got to figure it out. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to find a picture. Hold on. We don't know what you're saying.
Yeah, don't get like, whoa, hold on
And
a second.
every once in a while, the better English speakers are able to translate for the ones that don't know anything, but only if they speak the same language.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I've had to have some, if their countries are fighting, be like English only. And they're like, why? I'm like, because I don't know what you're saying. English only. I don't know if you're being nice to each other. So it's kind of, I know. I have crazy stories. I could tell you lots of them.
I look forward to hearing a few more before the episode finishes. Um, in terms of, well, there's two more questions I'm going to ask you actually. Constructive feedback. How do you how does this look for you? How do you give constructive feedback? What's the best way of giving constructive feedback?
For them, if they're first learning, it's like, okay, let's look at those letters. What sounds do they make? You have to keep it positive. And
Yeah.
For the most part, they do. And it's like, oh, do you remember what does that say? What sounds? Try again. And I think it's the positive of try again. And if they
Mm,
start to get defeated, be like, remember, learning to read takes work and we have to
yeah,
practice. And we're not good at anything when we first start. But look at where you started and how far you've come. And I think that's the important thing is always remember to kind of keep it positive. You just have to. Even and if they're having a struggling day, then maybe go a little lighter or make sure
it's
you
that positive reinforcement, isn't it?
yeah, you have to. I mean, they're little kids. And think about how we take it when people are critical of us.
Mm,
So being positive is a lot better. I know where if somebody goes, "You're getting it, keep going," is a lot better than "You're terrible. Why are you even doing that?" Like nobody wants to.
I think
It's
that's
too
it. It's
defeating. So you gotta kind of remember, be like, "All right, this is not working," and then sometimes they're like, "Give me a second. I need to figure out a different way to do this that
yeah.
works for you." And I tell them, "Let me switch, but just be patient." I
Being a
mean, and
teacher
it's a
has
thing.
been like a psychologist in some ways, isn't it? There's
Well,
some
yeah,
things that
that could be
overlap,
one of
don't we?
my degrees. It
Is that
is.
what you took as one of your degrees? Yeah.
Yeah, I have the big distinction. I taught everything. Science. I was supposed to only be a sub for the one when I was teaching students in the full classroom, and they're like, "Yeah, you're better than the actual science teacher." And I'm like, "Because I've taught online before, I know how to do it." And they're like, "So instead of a sub, the school requested that I stay instead of just doing a couple weeks." So I did the whole year. But they're like, "How do you know this?" And I'm like, "Bio degree." Yeah. So and they're like, and then we get on our history classes. They're like, "How do you know this?" I'm like, "Yeah, education wasn't my first thing." And I pull out my props. I was teaching high schoolers chemistry, and they weren't getting it. I pulled out my blocks. I'm like, "Okay, each color is an element. Now we're gonna put them together." So,
I love that though. Props. I think that's it. Props, as you were saying a moment ago, but they're very because it's something visual. It helps you
yes,
remember, and it makes you enjoy learning more. I'm sure it
yeah.
does.
Even my readers, when they're reading, I'll be like, "Yes, prop or picture." They're like, "That's a random picture in there." I'm like, "Yes, you were doing a good job. So there's a random picture for you to look at something and get a brain break." Some
Yeah.
of them that are building up stamina will talk for a second longer. They're like, "Why'd you let me talk?" I'm like, "Cause I know we're still building up your minutes to get you so you're reading these chapters longer." So yeah, it's always different. It's the
Always
fun
different.
part. Usually it's the fun part. You never know what's gonna happen. Never know if my students are gonna be at a restaurant like they were, in the car, in a bomb shelter, at an amusement park, at a rock concert. Don't recommend that.
Yeah.
And
I was going to
I'm
say
like,
that's
"What are
different.
you doing?" She's like, "I'm at a rock concert." I'm like, "I can't hear you." Dance recital, basketball game.
Just here, there, and everywhere, pretty much. Eh?
Yeah, I on the back of a scooter, that was a little scary. I really thought she was gonna fall off. Like a motorized scooter as her mom was driving. She was having class on the back of it. Yeah, I've taught everywhere,
Wow.
and everyone's like, "Don't you get annoyed when they're somewhere else?" I'm like, "Nope, they're there. I'm teaching. We do the best we can."
So, where can people find out more about your books, or how can people get in touch with you through your website? I assume is that right?
Yes, my website is zookidsreading.com. There's
Lovely.
also a YouTube channel. If you go
Okay.
to if you type in Zoo Kids, you'll get there. When there we have I have a Facebook group for parents, and I'm on LinkedIn. So, but if you go to zookidsreading.com, you will get everywhere.
Lovely.
Like, and just click on
You'll
the
get
bottom.
everywhere. Yeah.
We're restructuring the website, so it'll look a little different in a couple weeks. I'm changing some
Ooh. So
colors
that's
and
something to keep an eye out for.
yeah, and the books are there, and we're adding more books every week, and The chapter books hopefully will be out in September. That's the goal.
Excellent.
Working on
So
editing
that's
now.
for everyone. So zookidsreading.com,
Yep.
check it out. Also, books that's going to be published, please keep us posted on that as well, Amy,
Yes.
because we'd love to, yeah, we'd just love to see them, you know. And maybe if you feel that you would like to come back on again and Luca can join us as well, if you'd like as well, then you can show us one of your books when they're published.
Yes, that would be great. And maybe our technical issues will be fixed. We'll have internet working.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, it's held out quite well now, hasn't it?
It's some better.
But so just recapping for all listeners, it's been great talking about your teaching as a whole from in person to now mainly online, your own business, um, all for different countries, continents, and all that you've had experience in and endured. It's been some journey for you, Amy, hasn't it, really?
It has. It's still going.
And
So
it's still going,
it's still going. Yeah.
and
And
there's still much more to come, I'm sure, with your books
there's
going
still
to be
more books to
published,
come. Still more books to
which
come.
we're looking forward to, of
Yes.
course. So all this to come along. We'll put your zookidsreading.com in our when the episode comes out and drops, we'll put it in the link description on YouTube, if that's all right with you, so
Yes.
people can access it. And yeah, it's just been an absolute pleasure. And honestly, I've enjoyed so much listening to you, how much teaching means to you, what difference you bring to everybody's lives. And as I said, you said you've got to be bubbly, but you've got in abundance, Amy. You know, it radiates. And I'm sure you make so much difference to so many young, well, so many lives in general, you know. And if people don't tell you, well, they should tell you more. And there needs to be more people like you in this world, that's for sure.
I agree. I think it's really good to know people from other countries. You get to
Yes,
learn a lot, and you learn that.
100%.
I think the biggest thing I learned is, we are more similar than we are different.
Yeah, that's very true. That is
And
very true.
that's what I try to teach my students.
Yeah,
We can make the world a better place. It's a choice. So
that's very true. Very wise words. And yeah, it's been having a it's sorry, start again. It's been a pleasure having you on. And of course, yeah, our technical side's held out now.
we're
um,
good now.
but honestly, yeah, it's been a pleasure having you on. And you know, feel free to come back on at any time you'd like. As we say, when your books are published in September, come on again then. Chat to us then. And we'd like to find out more what's happened and keep doing what you're doing for these young lives. With Ukrainians, hope they're safe and everything like that, because it's not very nice what they're going through with all their conflicts at the moment. But we're all united to stand by them and support them as much as we can. So thanks for joining, Amy. Pleasure having you on. Take care. And I'm Jordan, and this is a Reflective Coach podcast for tonight with Amy on for education series. Take care and see you soon.
Thank you.
But yeah, we try to be that group that can help be there for the players as a three, because I think you mentioned earlier, you want to have different characters in the changing room. You want to have different personalities. You don't want the same kind of people, because you're not going to be able to move forward. If you've got 10 people and they all agree the same things, you're going to get to a point in time where actually you're going to become unstuck. You need that one person to actually be like, nah, I don't agree with that. Or actually, we should try this. And I think that's why the huddle works, is we're all quite different as human beings. And I think you need three different people in there, because some players will naturally gravitate towards me and my personality, but equally some might go to the other two, and that's absolutely fine.